Shoot, 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 shoot.
Hey guys, hopefully the music played this time. It's your boy Ren City coming back at you. Week 18 coming up in the NFL here. So your host of Sports and Shorts of Sorts is coming with the predictions. Haven't had many predictions during the holiday season, but with Week 18 coming up, no Thursday night games, no Monday night games. Just here for the weekend. We got Saturday games with a division on the line, and then we just have Sunday. The day intended for NFL football. So, as mentioned, let's go to those Saturday games. Big one up for grabs, January 4th. AFC North crown is going to be either placed upon the Baltimore Ravens or the Pittsburgh Steelers. The first Saturday matchup, the 11-5 Baltimore Ravens hosting the 3-13 Cleveland Browns. The Ravens, they control their own destiny here. Win, and Baltimore's in. Second straight AFC North title. Sorry, win, and the division's theirs. They're already in. But if the Ravens lose to Cleveland, something they've already done this season, 29-24 back in Week 8, that opens the door for Pittsburgh to slither in. But I did mention that Browns beat the Ravens earlier this season. That was with Jameis Winston playing hero ball. Winston at quarterback, he's going to give you a chance to win or throw a bunch of picks. Browns are going with Dorian Thompson-Robinson in this one, the safer quarterback, but I don't think he's going to make the big game-changing moments to pull off the upset victory in this one. I see Baltimore defeating Cleveland, clinching that second straight division title, maybe taking a little importance out of the next Saturday matchup for at least one team. The other AFC North matchup, it's bigger than the first. In the opening game, the Ravens playing for the divisions, while the Browns, they're playing for pride and maybe hoping to secure a better draft pick. The second matchup, you have a team scrapping to try and sneak into the playoffs, and another playing possibly for the division. So Saturday night's all right for fighting, and that's what we're getting. The 8-8 Cincinnati Bengals go into Pittsburgh to take on the 10-6 Steelers. It's amazing that the Bengals are even in this position. When they lost that thrilling game at home, 44-38 to Pittsburgh back in Week 13, most of us thought this team's playoff dreams were done. But Joe Burrow, man, he's looked like the MVP and probably should win it if not for the win-loss record here. But he's led the team to 4 straight wins, getting them even in a chance to make the postseason. It's incredible. The Bengals could beat the Steelers. That would put some extra pressure on two teams looking to sneak into the AFC wildcard spot. And that first game on Saturday between Cleveland and Baltimore could really determine how much Pittsburgh really pushes to win this game against the Bengals. If the Ravens beat the Browns, Steelers have no chance at the division title. If Baltimore loses, though, Pittsburgh will be pushing. The Ravens do win and the Steelers end up losing, they could drop to the 6th seed and potentially have a third matchup with the Ravens at wild card weekend, which would be wild, but living up to the name, I guess. But a lot of moving parts to determine seeding in the wild card weekend, so we'll get through all that. But it's a little tough to pick this one without knowing the outcome of that first game because that's going to influence a bit. But I think the Ravens are going to win that first Saturday matchup, like I said, taking a bit out of the Steelers' sails, enough so that Cincinnati, with their backs against the wall, will beat the Steelers, winning convincingly, I find, to do their part to at least make the postseason. The Bengals will take the win, and they'll probably set up a viewing party on Sunday to watch the outcomes of the Broncos and Dolphins games. But the games on Sunday, the first one we'll mention, an NFC South battle, and this one has some playoff implications involved. Not for the 4-12 Panthers, unfortunately, but for the hosting 8-8 Atlanta Falcons. This is a playoff game for them right now. They need to win to have any chance of making the postseason. That loss last week in overtime to the Commanders, massive, as they no longer control their own destiny. The Falcons need a win, and they need Tampa Bay to lose. The Falcons secure the NFC South for the first time since 2016, back when Commanders head coach Dan Quinn was coaching the Falcons, and Matt Ryan was their starting quarterback. So it's been a bit. But like I said, they need this win, and they need Tampa Bay to lose. So I see the Falcons playing some pretty inspired ball, and Michael Penix Jr. having another solid game. I still feel bad he had to lose the last game. Lots of Drake London, lots of Kyle Pitts. Carolina, I'm expecting a better fight out of them after giving up a 40-burger to Tampa Bay last week. enough so to make this one even interesting. It'll be really cool to see this young quarterback battle, and I'm hoping Bryce Young performs as much to the point where Panthers front office don't start getting crazy and be like, should we get rid of Bryce Young? I think they need to give him another year. He's really improved this season. I hope they stick with him, but you never know GMs in the NFL. Without Chuba Hubbard being there to help up Bryce Young, I don't think he's going to be able to get the win here. I see the Falcons taking care of business at home, doing their part and to try to get into the postseason at least. I imagine lots of Bijan Robinson in this one. You know the Falcons will have designated staff members watching the Bucs games for updates, but I don't think it's going to change the fact the Falcons will close out their season with a win by a rookie quarterback, making that breakup with Kirk Cousins a little easier. NFC South matchup featuring the division winners and some basement dwellers. You have the 9-7 Houston Texans, who have had this division wrapped up for a bit now. They go on the road to wrap the season up with the 3-13 Tennessee Titans. The Texans' division crown, it hasn't really been from dominant play, but more from mediocrity in the division. Texans followed up their one possession loss to the Chiefs by hosting the Ravens on Christmas Day and getting beat 31-2. The only 2 points coming from a safety. Not a good look for a playoff team in front of everybody. A lot of people watch that game, and they're on a 2-game losing streak now, and we'll see who even plays for Houston in the finale. I don't see they're going to rest players. They're locked into the 4th seed, not being able to move up and down, but they need to get something going. It hasn't been an ideal season for first-year head coach in Tennessee, Brian Callahan. The defense has played pretty well, but the whole quarterback situation, Will Levis, Mason Rudolph, it hasn't been good either way. I'm not saying the Titans will tank. I don't want to go full Herm Edwards here, but you play to win the game. So I don't see the Titans falling down and losing on purpose to secure a draft pick. But with that being said, the Texans need some positivity going into the playoffs. See them playing their guys, try to find some continuity in the search of consistency. I don't think the Titans are going to give up much of a fight. The team that they'll try, the defense, they're going to give some trouble for C.J. Stroud. This Titans defense, they're good. But I think the extra motivation and almost desperation to improve before the postseason should give the Texans the victory here. Reaching double-digit wins in back-to-back seasons under DeMeco Ryans, which is very impressive for the head coach. And the Titans will be quite content finishing with a nice draft spot for next year's NFL draft. College quarterbacks, you're on the Titans draft list. Buy the cowboy hat. Hope you like country music, like I've said before. We go to the NFC East with a great rivalry matchup. This game's unique because there are a lot of different factors that will dictate who's even playing in this game. The 13-3 Philadelphia Eagles are locked into that number 2 seed in the NFC, so they aren't moving up or down regardless of the outcome of this game. Jalen Hurts, he's recovering from that concussion. He's not going to be suiting up in this one. And the usual second string, Kenny Pickett, he took a shot from Dallas's Osa Odigizua last week, causing him to leave the game. And that rib injury is going to keep him out of the season finale as well. So we get to see the first career NFL start for Tanner McKee. Get to see what the 6'6 former Stanford quarterback can do after a week of first string reps. He'll be backed up by former Northern quarterback Ian Book. So very interesting quarterback duo there. The visiting 3-3 New York Giants, they may have upset a few fans by dropping a 40-burger on the Colts to pick up their 3rd win of the season, moving out of the number 1 overall draft pick spot. So we'll see if Drew Lock replicates that performance to get a rare 2-game winning streak for the Giants. Some fans will probably want their team to lose and get that better pick. Or try this. Maybe the Eagles would like to burn their rival by, losing and long-term hurting the Giants, having them get a later pick in the draft. Tons of scenarios, but the biggest one of the bunch, obviously, former New York Giant running back Saquon Barkley. We saw the video of the Giants front office struggling to come to terms of paying the star running back, saying, if he goes, I hope it's not Philly. Well, Barkley went to Philly, franchise record in rushing, becoming just the 9th player to surpass the 2,000-yard mark, and he's only 100 yards behind Eric Dickerson's 40-year-old record of 2,105 yards. So the big question was, does Saquon go for that elusive record? The game's meaningless, standings-wise, but this record is a big deal, and the fact Barkley would be doing against his former bosses in their house, that's something. But, Nick Sirianni, the head coach of the Eagles, he took those thoughts away, announcing that they'll be resting players, and one of the players rested will be Saquon Barkley. But I think the thoughts of seeing a potential offensive player of the year, even MVP, go down with an injury in search of a personal milestone, it would be too much to handle. I think it's the right decision. I'm sure Eric Dickerson thinks it's the right decision. But with that said, with the Eagles resting their players, I think this is going to turn into a recipe for disaster for the Giants. They think they're going to get the Eagles here. I think they're going to get the better of them on the field, and the front office is going to be like, "Really? We're not going to get this pick." I think the Giants are going to win their their fourth win of the season, moving further back in the draft selection. And the Eagles, they're locked in at number 2, and they're going to be like, "You know what? Screw your draft picks." So messing with rivals is good, and these guys have messed with each other, and getting over the whole Saquon Barkley is going to be tough on this Giants franchise. But yeah, rivalry games, they never end in a happy note. The second AFC South matchup of the weekend we'll talk about. No impact on the playoffs whatsoever. Just two teams duking it out for pride, maybe even some job opportunities. 4-12 Jacksonville Jaguars. They beat the Titans last week to get out of the division basement. Mac Jones had some nice moments as he may be showing off for future employment as a starter somewhere else. The big win also did move the Jags back in draft selection a bit, so a little bit of mixed emotions with the win. It was very easy to detect the emotions from the 7-9 Indianapolis Colts, and those emotions were not good. They got beat up by the Giants to get knocked out of the AFC playoff picture, giving up 45 points to the Giants, a team that hadn't scored 40 points in 5 years. That's as disastrous a game you could have, and they're going to finish the season under 500 a year after finishing a game over 500. Still not sure if Anthony Richardson's going to be good to go, the future franchise quarterback. He's been missing practice. I don't think he's going to be good to play. Indianapolis head coach Shane Steichen said if he's healthy, he'll be good, but I'm expecting to see Joe Flacco start this one. And saying that, this game's kind of a toss-up. It could go either way. The degenerate gamblers of the world, this is just as important as the other games. And I liked how the Jaguars rose up to beat the Titans last week, despite hurting that draft selection. I see that continuing in the Week 18. The Jaguars winning their second game in a row to end the season on a positive note, beating the Colts just as they did in Week 5 to sweep them. The Colts drop off. It's been bad to end the season, and another sight for sore eyes for head coach Shane Steichen as Colts are going to enter the offseason on a 2-game losing streak. From potentially sneaking into the playoffs to full-fledged disappointment. You can see why Pat McAfee lost his mind on his team, his former squad, and a lot of uncertainty with the Colts going forward here. The main thing will be the health of Anthony Richardson and how he can develop through the offseason going in the next season, and if he can stay on the field. The other NFC East matchup features two rivals that as well they don't like each other as well. 11-5 Washington Commanders punched their ticket to the postseason. That wild overtime win over the Falcons on Sunday Night Football last week. Those very same Commanders head into Dallas to take on the 7-9 Cowboys. Commanders are already in that wild card spot, and if they beat the Cowboys, they secure the 6th seed. However, if the Commanders fall to the Cowboys, that opens up the door for my Packers to move up a spot. So for the Cowboys, they were playing some pretty good football, leading into that shellacking they received from the Eagles, and that wasn't even the starting quarterback for the Eagles. It was a backup and then eventually a third string. So you know the Cowboys are going to look to respond and try to put a damper on the Commanders' season. This could be, Mike McCarthy's last game with the Cowboys, his expiring contract. I don't know if they're lining up to get his ink on paper here. So in saying that, I still don't think the Cowboys will win this game. I feel even with Washington having a playoff spot clinch, they'll want to come out and beat up on the Cowboys. The Cowboys got the better of the Commanders last time, beating them back in Week 12. But I see Dan Quinn's team getting revenge the second time around against a team he was defensive coordinator for 3 years. Holding on to that 6th seed in the NFC with the win. There are lots of talks of running back Austin Eckler returning for Washington. He's been on IR since suffering a concussion in that matchup with the Cowboys I mentioned. I hope that if they bring him back, it's in a very limited role. Save Eckler for the playoffs. He's such a game breaker out of the backfield in the running game or the passing game, and they have a very talented and very full running back room, so I think they'll be okay. Cooper Rush, injury-filled Cowboys, they'll put up a fight, but they're going to fall short. And they'll end a very disappointing season with a disappointing loss, and America's team's in a bit of trouble. I'm fairly confident this team is going in another direction with head coach, sending Mike McCarthy off with a nice send-off, but who's coming in next? That's another question. We go to the first NFC North matchup of the weekend. The 4-12 Chicago Bears heading into Lambeau Field to take on my 11-5 Green Bay Packers. Wrap up in the jersey again, of course. For my Pack, they're in the playoffs. They just need to determine their seeding. If they beat the Bears and the before-mentioned Commanders lose, the Packers move up a spot in seeding. But that's about all they're playing for. I mean, there are other factors, though, like The Packers, they've won 11 straight over the Bears, the longest such winning streak over either opponent in this series. Matt LaFleur undefeated against the Bears, 11-0. So I think the Packers are going to play much better than they did against the Vikings to start that game. That was a brutal start, and they couldn't do anything against that Vikings defense. And I think maybe Coach LaFleur will rest a few players maybe after they get up big. Injuries are scary as hell this time of year, and you don't want anyone getting hurt on your watch. The Bears would love nothing more to end that losing streak to the Packers. Hell, they'd be happy to end their current losing streak in general. The Bears rocking that 10-game losing streak. It's tied for the longest losing streak by any team this season. The Raiders had a 10-game losing streak they snapped a few weeks ago. The Giants ended their 10-game losing streak last week. The Bears haven't tasted victory since they beat the Jaguars back in week 6. So, like Aaron Lewis saying with Stained, it's been a while. That wears on a team over a season, and it cannot be good for the confidence and number 1 overall pick, Caleb Williams. I see this game being closer than what I'd hoped for as a Packers fan, but the Packers are still playing to try and usurp the Commanders for that 6th pick. I don't think the 6th pick in NFC seeding, and I don't think the Packers will require another walk-off win where they block the Bears' game-winning field goal to they block the Bears' game-winning field goal attempt to secure the win back in Week 11. But like I said, this game means something to the Packers. It means something to Matt LaFleur. He doesn't want to lose that perfect record against the rival Bears. I see Green Bay beating the Bears in Chicago, sweeping the series again, putting Matt LaFleur at 12-0, increasing that winning streak to 12, while Caleb Williams enters his first NFL offseason after a season on an 11-game losing streak. Not ideal for the number 1 pick, but considering he's playing on one of the toughest divisions in the NFL, there were some positives out of this season and enough to have some optimism going in the next season. The questions for the Bears aren't at quarterback. It's O-line. It's head coaching. So we'll see where they go in both of those directions. Or maybe Ryan Poles won't address them at all. That's usually what happens, but we'll see what happens there. The second NFC South matchup I'll mention is just as big as the first one. The 9-7 Tampa Bay Buccaneers host the 5-11 New Orleans Saints. With the Bucs winning last weekend and the Falcons losing, the Bucs now control their own destiny. If Tampa Bay beat the Saints, a team they dropped 51 points on back in Week 6, they're in the playoffs, winning the NFC South for the 4th consecutive season. Simple as that. However, if the Bucs lose, they'll be at the mercy at the result of the Panthers-Falcon game. And if the Falcons win, like I said, combined with that Bucs loss, the Falcons win the division and go to the postseason. Another spotlight on this important game is an important NFL record. Future Hall of Fame wide receiver Mike Evans, he's just 85 yards short of that 1,000-yard milestone. And if he can achieve that, it would be the 11th consecutive season, tying him with Hall of Famer and perhaps greatest wide receiver of all time, Jerry Rice, for the longest in NFL history. Evans already possesses the record for most consecutive 1,000-yard seasons to start a career, which is 10. And for the Saints, this has been a tough year. They started the season winning their first 2 games by a combined 91-29. We're like, what are we witnessing right now? But then the combinations of injury, bad play, lengthy losing streak, dismissal of head coach Dennis Allen. It's been a weird one. He got fired after their Week 9 loss to the Panthers. It was their 7th in a row. So special teams coordinator Darren Rizzi was promoted to interim head coach. He's been 3-4, winning his first 2 games. The Saints have now lost 4 of 5, but some rare optimism for the Saints. Sounds like there's some chance that quarterback Derek Carr, running back Alvin Kamara, and even wide receiver Chris Olave can all suit up. And you're like, with the season lost, what are these guys doing coming back for the last game? But we all saw that terrible tragedy and what happened in New Orleans on New Year's Eve. The nightmare scene of that piece of shit driving down the French Quarter, killing at least 14, injuring at least 35. It seems these dudes want to get out and do what they can to lift the spirits of the city. It's just still can't believe what happened there. Thinking of everyone involved and the families, Jesus. Like, with all that being said, there's a lot going into this game, and before the announcement of these star players possibly suiting up, and I mean it's a big possibility, like they weren't full participants in practice, I still feel the Bucs are going to pull this off. We'll have to keep our eyes on the starters, see who's starting this game, but the Bucs, regardless of who's starting for the Saints, the Bucs are playing pretty damn well. They're doing what they got to do out there. Winners of their last 5. They're trending to win the NFC South division again. Baker Mayfield, he's going to get Mike Evans to tie Jerry Rice's consecutive 1,000-yard season mark. The Bucs are going to win, regardless of who the Saints put out there. I'm sorry there. The Bucs, that pirate ship cannon, it's going to be going off nonstop. Look for another opening drive touchdown, by the way, for the Bucs. It's what they do. Raymond James Stadium, it's going to be bumping as the Bucs cruise to a playoff victory here, or a playoff clinching victory. An AFC East matchup featuring two teams that don't gain a lot by winning this game. 13-3 Bills, they're locked into the second seed in the playoffs. They head into Foxborough to take on the 3-13 New England Patriots. So whether the Bills win or lose this game, it will not impact their playoff seeding. So you wonder how much that will play in the head coach Sean McDermott's plannings. Josh Allen, he's a potential MVP candidate. You know, his biggest rival for the award, Baltimore's Lamar Jackson. He'll be playing in a meaningful game, probably putting up some points. So does Josh Allen go out there, try to improve those MVP chances? That brings us back to the Saquon Barkley argument there. Well, not argument, but conversation about chasing a single season record. Do you risk potential injury in search of individual achievement in the team game here? I don't think they're going to do that too much. I'm interested to see where they go. Allen's going to start this game. He's got a consecutive streak of 114 starts going back to 2018, the longest active streak among NFL quarterbacks. So he's starting. It's just how long is he going to play? I think he'll get a touchdown or two and they'll pull him. Patriots fans, they'd love to see their team beat one of the best NFL teams in the NFL, one of the best teams in the NFL, a team they almost beat a few weeks ago. But fans are also aware the Patriots have that number one pick for next year's draft. If they beat the Bills, they'll drop back. So again, teams don't lose on purpose. You play to win the game. But you have to wonder what the Patriots front office and owner Robert Kraft think about this game. Again, either team doesn't get much out of the win. If anything, it hurts the Patriots. So with all that being said there, I do think Buffalo's going to win this game. Division games can be tough, but I see the Bills winning this game, breaking the record for different receivers to catch a touchdown in the season. This is a weird record. That long touchdown score by wide receiver Tyrell Shavers last week against the Jets, 13th different Bill to catch a touchdown pass. So I see them trying to break this record. I see the Bills going in there. Who's it going to be? They're going to look for someone for that 14th touchdown, maybe a lesser used running back out of the backfield. Maybe they'll go eligible lineman and look for a big man to score. You got to love the thick six. But I see Buffalo going for that record. That's really, I see all of them playing for in this game. Jumping out early, giving potential MVP candidate Josh Allen a chance to boost his chances. But I see the Patriots trying, sometimes not trying, getting questionable call-outs by the broadcast team. But I see them secretly being happy to lose and keep possession of that number one pick going into next year's draft. An AFC West matchup that doesn't have a lot on the line. The 10-6 Los Angeles Chargers clinched their playoff berth last week going into Sin City. Take on the 4-12 Las Vegas Raiders. The Chargers, they can move up from the 6th seed to the 5th seed if they beat Las Vegas and Pittsburgh loses to the Bengals. But other than that, not a lot on the line for the Chargers. You'd think with the history of injuries in this franchise, they'd want to rest quarterback Justin Herbert, give running back Gus Edwards maybe another week to come back. But we'll see who Jim Harbaugh is playing in this game and for how long. For the Raiders, they're in weird territory. They're on a very rare 2-game winning streak, their only winning streak of the season. And they went from having one of the top picks in the draft to currently sitting in the 8th spot. So you know the players will want to end this season on a 3-game winning streak, but you have to wonder about the front office and owner Mark Davis, what they were hoping for. I mentioned it'd be nice if some of the Chargers stars could get some rest, but with the chance to move up into playoff seedings, I see the Chargers head coach Jim Harbaugh playing only one way, and that's all out. The Raiders have been looking better, rocking their first winning streak of the season, like I said, but I don't think it's going to be good enough to take down the Chargers. The Raiders players will feel defeated, but the front office will pop champagne as they move up in the draft selection. NFC West matchup, I was expecting to have some excitement to it when I saw it on the schedule, but it's lost some spark. Thought both of these teams would be sneaking into the playoffs or winning a division, and here they are both sitting on the outside. 6-10 San Francisco 49ers, last year's Super Bowl runners-up. They've dealt with some injuries all over the team, especially that running back position. 49ers are missing the playoffs for the 4th time in the Kyle Shanahan era. 7-9 Arizona Cardinals, losers of 2 in a row and losers of 5 of their last 6. They've reverted to past years and have collapsed in the latter portion of the season. Running back James Conner, he's missing the finale. Cardinals, they'll still play to win, but it could be a tough task. Kyler Murray, maybe he'll look for number 4 overall pick, Marvin Harrison Jr. He hasn't had the best season with the expectations he had coming in. Some people are calling him a bust, which is very steep. That's way too soon on that. But it looks like San Francisco, they're not going to have Brock Purdy. He'll be missing the season finale, and they're going to go with backup quarterback Joshua Dobbs. We know the Pasternauts started 8 games for the Cardinals last season, going 1-7 in those games, so we'll see if he wants to get some revenge against them. The 49ers, they're beat up, but they're going to go out with a fight. Now, this game doesn't mean a lot standings-wise, and something tells me Arizona's just going to ball out in this game, winning big, and people are going to be like, where has this been all season? Hopefully Marvin Harrison Jr. can make some big plays, get 1, maybe 2 touchdowns from Kyler Murray, ending the season on a good note leading into the offseason, while the 49ers' nightmare Super Bowl hangover season, it ends in fitting fashion, I guess. The AFC West game with the biggest importance of them all, featuring a team that has clinched the best record in the AFC, taking on a team that basically has to win to get into the postseason. 15-1 Kansas City Chiefs going to Mile High to take on the 9-7 Denver Broncos. Chiefs don't have anything to play for in this game. They got the number 1 spot in the AFC locked up. They get that first round bye. So you're like, man, it's a long break in between games. Maybe they won't rest many players. I was wrong. Chiefs head coach Andy Reid, he's already made that decision. Patrick Mahomes, quarterback's not starting in this game. So number 2 overall pick from the 2016 draft, Carson Wentz, he's getting the start. The team's searching for their first ever three-peat in Super Bowl history. They have bigger goals than a Week 18 matchup, I suppose. So this decision is going to piss off some teams needing a Denver loss in Week 18. Bengals and Dolphins. But the Broncos have lost 2 straight games against some stiff competition. Now they find themselves in a situation where they can just beat KC, and they're going to the playoffs for the first time since 2015. Since 2015 season. The Broncos, they were also close to beating the Chiefs back in Week 10, till the Chiefs blocked Will Lutz's game-winning field goal. The walk-off win for the Chiefs. So with that fresh in mind of the Broncos, they do not need any extra motivation in this game. However, as mentioned through a series of coughs, if the Broncos lose, that opens the door for the Bengals and Dolphins to sneak into the postseason. Being that the Bengals play on Saturday, the Broncos will know the real know of the meaning must win. Because if the Bengals win, the Broncos know losing will end their season. If the Bengals lose, the Broncos will just have to keep tabs on that Dolphins game, which will be played at the same time. For me, this feels like it's one of the toughest games to predict. KC is shit locked down. They're going to the resting route, even with an extra week of rest ahead of them. I see KC going out and playing pretty well with the backups, though. As mentioned, the Broncos almost had the Chiefs last time, and a little bit of extra confidence could be enough to propel them to the win, especially knowing KC's rocking the backups. Number 12 overall, Bo Nix, he's been phenomenal. That quarterback, he's in a finalist for the Offensive Rookie of the Year award, but I feel he may make a rookie mistake in this game that could cost his team a playoff berth. This is a pretty good Kansas City defense, and in a lot of sports, sometimes you need to lose first in order to win later. I feel that's what's going to happen to Denver against Kansas City. Losing at home to a hated rival to keep you out of the playoffs another season, that's the kind of revenge fuel used to build champions. So look out for the Broncos. Something's building there. But for now, I think they're going to be on the outside looking in. This could backfire, though. At times I've picked against the Chiefs and they've burned me. So maybe they'll reverse burn me here, which is kind of like cooling, I guess. Regardless, I have the Chiefs pulling out the season finale victory over Denver. The final NFC West match of the season, 9-7 Seahawks going on to take on the 10-6 LA Rams. Both teams winning last week. A tiebreaker was decided with the Commanders beating the Falcons on Sunday Night Football. So with the Rams beating the Seahawks earlier in the season and OT win in Week 9, the best the Seahawks could do is split the season series with the Rams. And with that said, that tiebreaker was decided by strength of schedule. And with Washington beating Atlanta, it swung the favor in the way of the Rams, giving them their first NFC West title since 2021, the same season they won Super Bowl 56. So for Seattle, it's been an up and down year. At times you're like, wow, this is a playoff team. And other teams you're like, what the hell did I just watch? That's the Geno Smith experience. And the way the end of the season played out, the Seahawks will be on the outside looking in, missing the playoffs for the second straight year. Not the finish first-year head coach Mike McDonald was hoping for, but he's got a winning record, but they're missing the playoffs. And news came out that Rams head coach Sean McVay said the veteran quarterback Matthew Stafford, he's sitting out the finale, giving the geriatric 36-year-old some rest before the wild card weekend, giving us a chance to see Jimmy G-Spot, Jimmy Garoppolo. He's going to get some regular season action. The longtime 49er, original Patriot, was brought into Las Vegas where he crashed out like a degenerate gambler running out of money. He was then brought into LA to back up Stafford. Now we'll see what he can do with Mike LaFleur's offense. With Jimmy G out there, I don't think he'll play too bad, but I think this game means nothing. Like I said to them, Seattle, they're going to take the win. They're going to crush the Rams, finish the season with the same record. But like I said, that strength of schedule going in the Rams' favor as they go to the playoffs, and Seattle goes to the golf course. AFC East matchup, more importance here in Week 18. You got the 8-8 Miami Dolphins heading north to take on the 4-12 New York Jets. It's not important for the Jets. It's another disappointing season for their pile of them. After firing Robert Saleh earlier in the season, things didn't turn around for their team. Lost 6 of their last 7 games, 11 of their last 13. This is not the season Aaron Rodgers. I'm wearing his jersey now, his old Packer one. Gotta give him some love. It's been rough for the man this season. So it hasn't been good for. It hasn't been a season he or the Jets were hoping for. The team's in disarray. You have to wonder who even wants to come back or who the Jets want back. I can't see them too high on bringing Aaron Rodgers back unless they're actually too high. This game's about the Dolphins, though. If they beat the Jets, they need the Chiefs to beat the Broncos, and they have a chance to make it to the postseason. And the fact the Chiefs are resting so many starters, as I alluded to, that's got to piss some Dolphins off a bit. But they can't worry about that. They just got to worry about what they control. They picked up a big win over the Browns, their second in a row last week, where backup quarterback Snoop Huntley did his thing. Going into the regular season finale, it's not looking good for starting quarterback Tua Tagovailoa. He's got that hip injury that's lingering, and it's limited him tremendous, like a big time mobility wise, and he'd kind of be a sitting duck in the pocket. So Snoop may have to step in and get his team back to the playoffs here. Mike McDaniels told reporters that they're preparing for Huntley to start, and if anything changes, they'll adjust the game plan accordingly. So as long as the Dolphins win, they have a chance. And as long as their priorities are winning and not scoreboard watching, that should help. The Jets don't have a lot of motivating factors in their corner right now, but being able to play spoilers to a division rival might be enough to wake the Jets up. But with that being said, and I like with the Jets having the chance to upset the Dolphins and play that spoiler role, yikes, I don't think it's going to happen. Even with Snoop out there, Miami's going to have that extra playoff motivation. They're going to win this one. The Jets, they're checked out. They're done with this season. That's not going to help them. I think Miami's going to rely on those quick throws, Devon Achane, Jonnu Smith, Tyreek Hill, and let them do their thing. And with the win, Dolphins are going to break the hearts of the Bengals, who I mentioned earlier. I have them winning their game, but they're going to miss out on the postseason because the Dolphins are going to win, Broncos are going to lose, and the Dolphins are going to swim their way to an AFC wildcard spot. A situation where at one point in the season, no one thought was probable. And even more eyes are going to go to Tua Tagovailoa and his hip, because if they do make the playoffs, they're going to need Tua. That brings us to the Sunday Night Football. The regular season wraps up with the juiciest game of the week. That's why the schedulers don't put times on the Week 18 games. They go over the results of Week 17 and go, which should we choose? And man, did they nail it on the head. I mean, it was an easy choice. They're not only NFC North on the line, but the number 1 seed in the NFC as well. The 14-2 Minnesota Vikings rolling into the Motor City to take on the 14-2 Detroit Lions. This is the first time in NFL history that a regular season matchup features 2 teams with 14 wins. It's happened in the playoffs, but never in the regular season. And massive ramifications in this one. The winner of this game, like I said, gets the number 1 seed in the NFC and that first week bye. The loser, you don't drop a little, you drop a lot to the 5th seed, and you're playing on the road despite your opponent's going to have a worse record than you. It seems insane, but that's what's up. That's how good the NFC North has been this season. That division has combined for 43 wins heading into the last week of the season, and with divisional games being played in Week 18, barring that both games end in a tie, we're going to have a new record for the most wins by any division in NFL history, and we're going to have a 14-win wildcard team. This is insanity. But I mentioned earlier, there's been some tough picks, but this is the hardest game to pick for me this week. The loser, such drastic changes in playoff position. This is a high-stakes matchup here. I've picked against both these teams a few times. That could be my inner Packer hate for the rest of the division, but I don't think this one's ending in a tie. If that chance came up, Dan Campbell would rather win or lose than tie. So back in Week 7, these two teams faced off. It was back and forth. The Vikings went up. Lions swung the game in their favor, triggering a Vikings comeback, but the Lions held on. It was as roller coaster as you could get, and that's what I'm kind of expecting in this one. So with both teams exchanging punches, which heavyweight do you have standing in the ring as champ? Well, Ren City's going with Sam. Hey, Darnold and the Vikings, move it, football head, they're going to beat the Lions in Detroit to clinch the number 1 seed in the NFC, giving Minnesota that elusive bye while the Lions drop to the 5th seed. A tough finish for the Lions team that's been owning that number 1 spot in the NFC basically all year. So, does that mean the Vikings are going to go to the Super Bowl? Well, let's not get crazy yet. We'll wrap up this Week 18 first with my Week 18 recap episode I'll do after here, where we'll talk about what went down. We'll see how right I am. Maybe I nailed them all right. Shit, if you bet on these picks and win, holla at your boy. But we'll revisit these after, and then I'll also talk about the awards. Who will get the MVP? Who's getting comeback player of the year? Who's getting coach of the year? We'll all find out next time. But enjoy the game. Grab your popcorn. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see how the predictions work. Enjoy the games, like I said. Ren City out.